Hello and welcome to All Things Foster, a place for coffee, connection, and community. We are so thankful to have Dr. Lund here on the podcast with us. We'll get to her in just a minute. But before we do, today's episode is sponsored by The Stretching Place. Foster parents and caregivers give so much of themselves every single day. But who's taking care of you? At The Stretching Place, we believe taking care of others starts with taking care of yourself. That's why we offer customized, professional assisted stretching sessions designed to help you release stress, ease muscle tension, feel your best, so you can keep showing up strong for the kids who count on you. Ready to feel the difference? Visit thestretchingplace.com to learn more. The Stretching Place. Loosen up literally. Call them today at 806-646-5880. That's 806-646-5880. Again, I say this almost every week, but the Stretching Place is a great place to go and get loosened up and release some stress and things like that. So really check it out if you haven't. And thanks again, Marla, for your sponsorship. So, Dr. Lund, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm super glad that you reached out. I wasn't super familiar with your work. And so as I started looking into your books and the podcast and the speaking and things like that, it's a lot of what we talk about here on the podcast. Our goal in this podcast is to provide resources to foster and adoptive families that are struggling. This is a hard journey. And but personally, we have dealt with so much struggle, and I know I talked to so many foster families that really struggle deeply as well. And so the goal of this podcast is here are some resources to connect with, to hopefully provide something that helps you get through and manage the stress for yourself and for the kiddos that you're dealing with. And so let's talk first. Why this? Where did the passion for helping families that are dealing with big, heavy struggles, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, it goes way back to my childhood, to my early life. When I was 4, I was diagnosed with this medical condition called hydrocephalus. And that means that the cerebral spinal fluid isn't circulating as it should. And so pressure builds up on the brain. And so, I was 4 and I got pretty sick pretty quickly.
Right.
And it was a struggle. It was quite traumatic for me as a child, not really understanding what was going on, as well as my family, my parents, right? So the good news is hydrocephalus can be managed with something called a shunt, surgically implanted little tube that kind of circulates the spinal fluid for you. Bad news is that shunts break. So I spent a large part of my early childhood, through adolescence, really in and out of the hospital, making sure that the shunt was working properly, and that so that as a result I could be at my best. So I think my desire to help, give back, my interest, passion in what helps folks to move through and beyond challenge, difficult moments really goes back to that time. So I became a psychologist. I really focused all of my time in college on preparing to become a psychologist, and then went on to get a doctorate in psychology. And, it's not something that I share with those I work with, obviously, but it's a placeholder in my mind of why I'm doing this work and why it's so important.
That's so many of the folks that I talk to on a daily basis. That they're fostering because they were in foster care, or they knew somebody who, as they were growing up, this kid that was in foster care or something. They're touched somehow, and then that brings them later into this kind of conversation. And a lot of times it's the folks that work with families that are going through the same kind of things have that same kind of response. They've been through something, and so that causes them to want to help folks that are dealing with that. So that's awesome. So you're in Seattle, right? That's what she said.
Yes, exactly.
And so, and you were in counseling for 20 something years, right?
Right.
And then so you transitioned completely into the podcast and the book and things like that, or are you
I
still
have
seeing
a
some?
small practice, a
Yeah.
small practice. I do some consulting. I do a very small practice of, one-on-one clinical work.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, I've transitioned into writing, speaking, podcasting,
Yeah.
course development, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. It's it's you can probably impact more folks uh, by teaching others how to manage this as opposed to one on one. The impact can be bigger and stronger. So that's cool. So today, your big thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking resilience. Why does it matter for kids and for parents and families, and how to kind of grow and build that resilience, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's a primary focus of my books, my speaking, all of it really. And so what this is resilience. We're not looking at resilience necessarily as kind of bouncing back from a challenge that pops up in the middle of
Mm,
the day or what have you, because that's going to inevitably happen. What we're really trying to do is help folks to develop a resilient mindset, a resilient lifestyle, by integrating strategies into their day to day that help them to become resilient from the inside out, such that that's just how they define themselves and how they show up in the world. And then, in essence, how they're able to move through and beyond the challenges that are inevitably going to pop up.
sure. So so if you're in a scenario that's super stressful, the building of that resilience means that you can tolerate more stress without going into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever it is, so that you're able to stay in that kind of that higher functioning brain longer before you get set off, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I love it. So you had a book. When did Bounce come out?
So Bounce came out in 2017.
Okay. Okay. So why we kind of I think we kind of hit on it, but why a book? Where did the impetus come from that?
Yeah, well, so again, I wanted to sort of start impacting folks on a broader scale.
Sure.
But to be honest, Bounce itself, the book, that one is geared, it's basically for parents,
Mm,
helping them to help their kids build resilience in school, sports, and life. And it's geared more towards the younger child.
mm,
Although the cool thing is that the pillars outlined in the book apply to all of us across
yeah.
the lifespan.
Yeah.
But the case studies, the examples given in that book are kind of the elementary age child. And that came out of me watching my own kids in elementary school kind of navigate the various challenges that would come up for them as elementary school children, and noticing my mom friends and what they were kind of grappling with, and then also integrating what was happening in my clinical life.
Sure.
So that's where Bounce came from.
Yeah. And so you in the book, first of all, how do you well, I think we kind of hit on this too, but what does resilience mean for kids today?
Right. And again, we really want kids to be resilient from the inside out, so that
Mm,
that's how they're showing up in the world, so that when that inevitable challenge hits, they're starting from a level space. And
mm-hmm.
then they can kind of ride that challenge like a wave, so to speak,
Yeah.
such that they're not gonna to escalate when they hit a challenge and
Mm-hmm.
shut down.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what we're trying to accomplish, for all of us, but
Yeah.
from the perspective of Bounce, helping parents to help their kids develop in that way. Because as we know, childhood, regardless of the angle that you're coming from, is stressful. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of things that our kids are contending with, kind of across the age span. So, that's why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about the seven pillars of that resilient kiddo. So talk us through the seven. The first one is tolerating frustration, managing emotions.
Yes, exactly. And that is really at the core for all of us. But from the perspective of bounce, the thing we're starting with, helping kids to have a developmentally appropriate way to manage their stress response so that they can build in kind of strategies, tools that they might go to if they feel themselves getting stressed. Really, we want to help them to, in a developmentally appropriate way, practice strategies that work for them to keep them level, even,
Yeah.
such that when that challenge comes up, they can ride it like the wave. So,
Sure.
there's so many ways that we can help our kids to do this, right? My favorite go-to, which I teach basically everybody that I work with, is a strategy developed by a physician back in the 1970s in Boston named Herbert Benson. And he developed something called the relaxation response. And it's super simple and super easy to implement and
Yeah.
integrate into your day to day. So I like to teach that. Basically, what you do is you come up with a word or phrase that you find soothing in some way and you breathe, but it's focused breathing as you're thinking of that word or that phrase. And, I like folks to start with 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. So you're kind of bookending the day.
Yeah.
And with practice over time, you're sort of integrating what that feeling of being level is.
I like that.
It
Yeah.
becomes more of your baseline over time.
Yeah.
And it takes practice. There's no, button that we can push, unfortunately. But it's amazing to see how that level foundation really does develop over time with practice. I mean, I've seen so many clients, and I use it really across, domains in terms of it can be kids who are struggling with something in school. They're nervous about a test or a presentation. They can use it right before that test or presentation. Athletes, young athletes who are stressed out about a game or they're lacking confidence on the field, they can integrate it. But really that bookended practice day to day is the thing that really integrates this into our life,
I like that.
and makes it effective.
Okay, so that's the first step. And then you talk navigating friendships and social pressures. So where do we go from there? So
Right,
we've
exactly.
started with the bookending of the developing that tolerance, and then we move into the navigating friendships. So
Right. Navigating friendships and social pressure, right, is such an important space to address with our kids, to be there for our kids if there's, bullying going on or social challenges or that sort of thing. And so helping our kids to really comes down to build those initial skills of emotional intelligence, understanding ourselves in social situations, understanding how our way of interacting, how our behavior is impacting not only ourselves, but others, right?
yeah, yeah,
And really helping kids to understand that from an early age, whether it's through role play, conversation with us as parents or with teachers, um, helping kids who are maybe being bullied or who are struggling. My focus in this, the case studies that I write about in Bounce around this have to do with my son, who was very young at the time. And he was, at the time, a San Francisco 49ers fan. And we are here in Seattle. And that didn't go well with the other boys on the playground, right?
right, yeah,
So, he'd be proudly wearing his San Francisco 49ers jersey that his uncle gave him. And the boys would, you know, shove him in the mud, and mess up his jersey and tell him how stupid he was for wearing an opposing team's jersey. So that really hurt him. He was a
sure,
sensitive kid,
yeah,
and he's still sensitive. He's much older now. But helping him to understand that it's okay to feel how you feel, to like a team that everybody else doesn't like. Um, and, you know, hard things happen, and how can we help you to believe in yourself from the inside out and build that foundation that's going to then help you to, have those moments of being called stupid for wearing the opposing team's jersey bounce off of you.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
It's a process.
Mhm.
But that's one example. But really it also goes back to really helping kids, all kids, whether they're the bully or they're the person being bullied, to understand how their behaviors, how their actions impact others as well as themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a really important core lesson for us to be imparting on our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we that is a huge battle, especially with kiddos from trauma. Is managing that, that personal belief of value and things like that, so that when something happens, that it doesn't cause us to go off the rails and things like that.
Exactly. And yeah, and again, in a developmentally appropriate way, helping our kids to understand what their strengths are,
Mm.
helping them to identify those strengths and how can they use those strengths in a way that's going to help them, both in social situations and otherwise, but really just at the core from the inside out, believing in themselves.
Right. Yeah, that is such a, I mean, I'm 45, and that's a battle that I still face. I mean, I came out of foster as well, and I was adopted, and which is part of the reason why we have done what we've done and things like that. But excuse me, but just accepting who we are. One of the things that we give placement packages to kids coming into foster care. And so every kid gets a suitcase, Bible, teddy bear, a book, a toy, and a blanket, and then, whatever else they need, clothes and diapers and socks and stuff like that. But one of the things that we started doing about 6 months ago is I had some challenge coins made out. There's these big coins, big heavy coins, and on one side it's got our logo, but on the other side it says, "I am valuable and loved." Right. And the point, the hope is that these kiddos are carrying these around in their pockets as a big reminder, I am loved and valued. Right.
I love that. That is so awesome because it's something that they can see, they can touch, it's there, it's a reminder. And kids who are coming into foster, I imagine a lot of trauma,
Yeah.
struggle,
Mhm.
and would be really easy for them not to believe in themselves and not
Absolutely.
to believe in what they have to offer. And I would bet that every single one of them has a ton to offer
Hmm.
and to help them to see that and integrate it is so, so important. So I love that. I
Absolutely.
love that coin. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was just an idea. I was in the Marines, and challenge coins are a big thing and stuff like that. And I just came up with this idea. I was like, man, that would be really cool because, like I say, I know talked with and known so many kiddos and families and the struggles that we faced and they faced, and so anyway, so okay, so we've got navigating friendships and social pressures, then you've got sustaining focus and attention. What do you mean here? What's that about?
Right. So that kind of goes back to the managing your emotion, tolerating frustration. As we do that and we integrate that sort of level baseline, we're going to be more able to focus on the task and or goal at hand. So we really want to help kids focus on, you know, where they want to go in a developmentally appropriate way, right? So
Hmm.
this is starting, we're not talking toddlers here. We're talking
Yeah.
sort of middle elementary up. Um, what are their goals? What do they hope to um, do day to day as they move forward, even beyond that? But it's really being able to attend to that, to believe in the fact that it's possible to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
And, oftentimes kids who aren't believing in themselves from the inside out aren't able to really attend to what they want to accomplish
Hmm.
in an assignment, in a sports practice, trying something new. all of those things. So we're really helping kids here to articulate what it is they want to do and how they can get there. So setting a goal and then breaking that down into smaller achievable
Manageable
steps
pieces. Sure.
helps them to stay on track. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and so we're building kind of blocks here. You know, we're internally saying, this is who I am, right? And then we're kind of developing those relationships, and now we're talking growing in the future and saying, okay, because I have value, I have worth, then I can look at and the future and begin to see where I can go and what I can do, right? Because
Exactly.
without that, if you don't see who you are and what are your worth, why think about the future?
Right,
Right.
precisely. And so it's so important to integrate that ability to, help kids see their strengths, see what they're bringing to the mix, see
Hmm.
their own sense of self-worth. So, so vital. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and then so as we talk through these, what's the parent's role in these steps? I mean, are they sitting down with the kiddo and saying, okay, this is what I would like for you to do. I want you to first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Pick a word and do this. And are they sitting through this? Are they modeling it? How are the parents helping with the kiddos through this?
Yeah, so they're definitely talking through it, when the child is developmentally in that space.
Hmm.
Definitely modeling. They're showing up to connect with the child, really to form that authentic relationship.
Mm.
Um, and part of it also for us as parents is, you know, in a way that is, again, I've said this a lot, developmentally appropriate. Sharing our own struggles and challenges is a good thing
Oh
because
yeah.
we're showing our kids in that way that we're not perfect,
Right.
but we've also had challenges and we've been able to overcome them. And here are some ways that we've done that. And here are some strategies and some tools that perhaps have helped us in some way. Um, so it's all of that, but it's really showing up
Mm.
in an authentic way with our kids and working through these steps.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's so critical for the parents to try to be as solid and beneficial as they can be, so that they can show up for the kiddos. And so, I mean, I can definitely see the benefit of working through these, as an adult, so that we're in a place where we can do that for the kiddos.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really does, require us as parents to be working on ourselves, developing these strategies also,
Hmm.
also reminding ourselves of our own self-worth and what we're bringing to the mix and the table because it's really easy for us and our kids as well to fall into that comparison trap, right?
Hmm.
And to lose our sense of self-worth as a result of that.
Hmm.
And really important, it's one thing that I talk about a lot is, really appreciating our own unique context and maximizing building our potential within that context without comparing ourselves to others, which is again easier said than done. A really important practice slash habit to develop.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, I have uh, a journal that's developed by a guy that I've worked with here in town, and one of the first things that I do every morning is, there's some gratitude statements and some I am statements, and that's the first thing that I do in this journal is work through those, and then we can look at the rest of the day, right? And
Yeah.
so, and that practice of writing out these statements of who I am and the value that I have been really beneficial to me since I've started doing it. And so, yeah, if we can work through the struggles that we face, then we can turn around and help the kiddos in the struggles that they face.
Absolutely. That is such a great point. Yep. Absolutely. So much
Yep.
power in that.
Okay, so we're developing courage. That's the fourth pillar. So what are we talking here?
Yeah. So what we're talking here is, to not be afraid to take that first step forward,
Mm,
to, not hold yourself back because you think you can't or you're not good enough or any of those things. Um, and to really push yourself to take mm, risks maybe that make sense, to do things that might feel like they're not achievable, but to try anyway.
mm,
And to recognize that it's okay if you don't succeed the first time out of the gate. In fact, most of us won't, right?
yeah,
Most of us won't succeed the first time out of the gate. So it's really about not being afraid to take that first step forward and get back up and try again from another angle if it doesn't go the way you're hoping or expecting the first time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, if we're talking through setting those goals, we have to be willing and you know, hurt, courageous enough, strong enough to to take that first step to grow those goals and to be that stronger and better person.
Yes, and it might take some time, some trial and error.
Mm,
You might stand. There's one story that I tell in the book, Bounce, um, about this young girl who is standing at the edge of this sort of suspension bridge on a field trip where all the kids have easily walked across the bridge,
mm,
and she's petrified.
right.
And with the encouragement of her teacher, with the encouragement of her peers, her classmates on the other side of the bridge, she's able to, with quite a bit of time, take that first step
Yeah.
and make her way across the bridge. And, you know, being able to get to that point is so powerful for kids, right?
Mm,
Because if they do something that the hour before, the 10 minutes before, they were convinced they couldn't do, but then they do it,
yeah.
that's hugely powerful and
Yeah.
hugely powerful the next time that they're afraid or hesitant to try something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That we're building that strength and that feeling that I can do this, right? I'm worth doing this and I can do this because I have that strength and that internal value.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. That's spot on.
Yeah. I love it. So then once we've developed that courage and that desire and that want and then doing it, then we talk about building that motivation. What are we here? What are we saying here?
So what we're saying here is essentially we want to help kids really understand who they are, develop the awareness of what are their passions and what drives them in those passions. And ideally, that's going to be coming from the inside out. So by helping kids to identify their interests, their strengths, where their passions are, we're going to be helping them to cultivate a sense of intrinsic motivation.
Mm,
Because ultimately, we know, and all the research shows that, while extrinsic motivation from the outside in,
hmm.
is important,
Yeah.
it's the intrinsic motivation that's the most powerful thing,
Right.
and it's the most sustainable driver
Mm,
for not only us but our kids, and we want them to experience that early on.
hmm.
I give the example of, back in the day, with the hydrocephalus and everything, I became a tennis player. I couldn't do contact sports. I couldn't do whatever, was gonna put me at risk of hitting my head.
Hmm.
So I became a tennis player and I was pretty good, but I was never the best. But yet I played from the inside out. I played because I loved it,
Mm,
played because I truly appreciated the fact that I could be out there at all because I
yeah.
knew what it was like to not be able to be out there. And so I had some friends who played as well, and they were better than me. But their passion in the moment for the game was being driven by the external validation, the trophies, the
Right.
fact that, their parents were saying, you're the best tennis player in the area, all that stuff. Nobody was saying that to me.
Mm.
But there was this joy, this sense of joy and freedom being out there on the court. And so, I'm not saying that, in that time that was a better thing than what my peers were doing, but it was just different. But
Mhm.
I do believe that that's the thing that, really, you know, caused me to keep playing tennis, where some of these other folks who are winning all these trophies quit
Mm.
when the external validation ceased, because at
Yeah.
some point it will.
Yeah.
Um, you get to college, you get, later on in your life, nobody's going to be, telling you how good you are all the time.
Right.
The world is not an easy place that way. So, yeah.
Right.
So I think helping kids to experience what it's like to be driven from the inside out is
Yeah.
what we're talking about with this pillar, and it's so vital.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 100%, if, if I'm sitting here saying, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And then, they take my word for it, but they don't believe it. So that if something happens and I'm not there, then they're just, you know, they don't internalize that value and say that I can do this regardless of who else, talking to me, pushing me, whatever. And so, developing that just heart of wanting to do whatever it is, whether it's, be successful in school or get a job or, excel in jobs or go to college. I mean, in Texas, if a child has been in the foster care system at any point in their life, they can have they can go to any state school just about for nothing. I mean, they might have to buy some books and things like that, but and a lot of school. I mean, it's a lot of school, but something like 2% of the kids that's available to actually use it. They don't push themselves and go on to grow in that way. And I think a lot of it comes back down to, that personal belief, that personal desire to grow, that, all those things. I think that so many of them they just feel not worth it, and they don't feel it in themselves, that they have something to give, they have something to do. And so having that internal motivation to do whatever it is that they're needing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's spot on. And so, wow, I didn't realize that. So, um, it's a shame then that so many of the kids who have that opportunity open to them don't
Mm.
take it.
Oh yeah.
And so it's helping those kids to see what they have to offer and see their ability to offer and to maximize and to build within their own unique context, that becomes so important. That's,
Hmm.
yeah, so important.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that was number 5. Number 6 is finding confidence. So talk us through that.
Right. So, yeah, so finding confidence is really, really important. Again, from the inside out. We want kids to believe in their ability to do things and to do them well, whatever that looks like for them, right? So it's going to
Hmm.
look different for all of us because we're all bringing different skills, different aptitudes, different things to the table.
Hmm.
Um, so we really want kids to, believe in their ability to do things. And oftentimes that comes from trying things that are hard. Again, same thing that we were talking about before. Um, Visualizing their success in the moment,
Hmm.
um, visualizing their success before they're in the moment.
Hmm.
Um, and they build that confidence through trying things, trying again, and seeing that they're able to achieve things that they didn't think were possible.
Right.
And it comes down to, not being afraid to try again when things don't go well the first time out of the gate. Um, and I have a couple kids who are athletes, and really their confidence has exploded in their practice of visualizing the outcome that they want to achieve,
Mm,
going out there, practicing or playing in a game, correcting for the things that go off track and trying again. And it's amazing to see after, a bit of time has passed, how their confidence has grown,
mm,
exploded really in many of these cases. So these are the same principles that we help kids to integrate, across domains, whether it's, you know, socially, it's in the classroom, it's on the sports field, it's in music or drama or theater, whatever it is they're doing, we
mm,
want them to put these same principles into play.
yeah. Oh, man, I love that. Yeah, because if we have, I love how you build the steps, because if we have all the things, then we can get to here and we can say, okay, I've set that goal, and now I've got the courage to step out and do that goal, and then I have the internal drive and confidence to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and maybe it works well and maybe it doesn't. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, we can come back and reevaluate and step out there again. But it all comes back to that internalization, that internal belief that we're valuable, that we have something to give, and stuff like that. And so I do. This is great stuff. I mean, having that confidence to step out, just I'm going to do something, whatever the something is, instead of, I mean, what is it? It's this culture we're in right now where we've got 30-year-olds living in mom's basement type things, because they don't have this internal drive, they don't have this confidence to step out and say, okay, I can do this. I can get a job. I can, get a place. I can do this. I can do that. And I think it's not just an epidemic within the foster and adoptive world. I think it's really a lot of our culture right now that even adults don't have this desire, this internal value to say I can do this, and I'm gonna try, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But the taking that first step forward,
Mm,
trying something is the really important piece, because you mentioned the 30-year-olds living in mom's basement. They're stuck most likely, in some way. They're afraid to take that first step forward. And I would bet that so many of them, if they did take a step forward, even if it didn't lead to the direction that they were hoping, it's still a step forward and they can build from there. And so having that belief in self, that really gives us the ability to do that, to take that first step forward.
yeah, I love it. So then once we've got the confidence and we've taken the steps, now we have to create that optimism. That's the final step. So if we're talking that confidence, what optimism, what are we looking for here?
Yeah, so the optimism, yeah, it's a really important step in the mix, right? It's this ability to see possibility on the other side of the challenges that we're
Mm,
inevitably going to face day in, day out.
mm,
But to not be shut down by that challenge, to
yeah.
see the possibility on the other side of the challenge, to, be able to think out of the box a little bit, to circumvent that challenge. And so one of the important steps that we like to teach kids, and again, all of these pillars apply to all of us across the lifespan, right?
Mm,
Um, but it's called the daily wins exercise, where we encourage folks to jot down or talk out 2, 3, 4 things that went well during the day,
mm,
as opposed to, our human nature brings us to the things that didn't go so well, the challenges, the
mm,
would-haves, could-haves, the should-haves. I
right.
should have been better. I should have done that well, more, whatever. But if we can really practice honing in on the things that did go well,
Right.
we're really going to be neutralizing our lens,
Yeah.
or we're going to be moving it to more of a positive space.
Mm.
But really, we want to at least neutralize it. We don't want to be stuck on that negative loop.
Right.
So that really does help us to see the possibility on the other side of challenge, helps us to become more optimistic about what's possible for us, what's possible in terms of our outcome, and all of it. So a really important step in the process.
Oh man, yeah, I love that. We do. I can't remember where. There's probably been several, but we feel like negative emotion way stronger than we feel positive, right?
Mhm.
And so if we can focus on the better things, the things we did well, and you put not bury, but overcome the negative emotions that we feel, then we can really start to grow and develop and do better, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That makes all the sense in the world.
It's such good stuff. So if you had so we've gone through the seven. If what would you say is kind of the most important piece? If you're a foster parent out there and you're looking, I'm struggling, my kiddo's struggling. Where do I start? What's the most important thing that I need to do?
Yeah, it's just such a great question. And I would say unequivocally managing your stress response.
Mm.
So starting to practice the relaxation response, there are other ways to do it, but really finding a way to build that level foundation. I think the relaxation response is a really simple, effective way to make this happen. But then, it could be some people like to throw on their favorite song. It's some people like to call a friend. Some people like to take a walk around the block, get a little bit of fresh air. The power of movement and fresh air is very, very much a thing. And,
Mhm.
it's finding a way to manage your stress response, helping our kids to do the same so that we're more prepared, we're more readily able to contend with the challenges that are going to come up, and then we build from there.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, man, that's it's just so stinking important. The kids, the parents, we're all struggling through all of these different emotions and things, painful things, and so just being able to start from a place of better regulation is key. I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Spot on.
Okay, so let's talk about your podcast. It is called The Optimized Mind. Is that right?
Yep. You
Okay.
optimize mind, and super fun project. And basically, it's been going for just about 3 years now.
Okay.
And the goal is we're focusing on the human experience of resilience. So
Mm,
I interview folks across domains. Interview parents. I interview athletes. I interview corporate folks, entrepreneurs. Talk about what they built, how they've overcome challenge, struggle, that sort of thing.
mm,
But really, the big idea through each interview is to get a snapshot of that person's kind of human experience of resilience.
mm.
And yeah, great project. I've learned so much, and yeah, it's
Very
been
cool.
cool.
Very cool. So, does it come out weekly or
It does.
yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. About 160 episodes. It's
Wow.
available on all of the podcast platforms.
Right. Right. That's wow. Yeah, I mean, I launched this podcast in April, so we're in the 20 somethings episodes, trying to do it weekly and stuff like that. And so that's awesome. So, I mean, I think if folks are looking for a way to help figure out how to do this thing, how to help the kids that are in our care, help ourselves get through these big struggles, then coming and hearing and learning, listening to what other folks have done to get through, right?
Absolutely.
How did somebody in a maybe it's not the same, but in some similar they're dealing with some kind of struggle, and
Yes.
how are they overcoming that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the universal experience of struggle, right?
yeah,
And it's, all of our experiences, circumstances, we're all coming from different places, but there is that universal experience of struggle, and
mm,
hearing from others how they've navigated that, they've circumvented that is a very powerful thing.
yeah. Wow. Man, so yeah. So it's, if you're a podcast listener, hopefully if you're on here, then check out the Optimized Mind. When do the episodes drop?
Tuesday morning
Tuesdays at what
at
time?
like 6 a.m. Eastern,
Okay,
I think,
all right,
something like that.
cool. So check it out on Tuesdays. Mine's drops Tuesday at 10. So yeah, and what would you say if out of 160 episodes, is there a person that you had on that just really struck home? Like this was a really good episode.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many, because they're coming from different angles. But I've had some really powerful interviews with authors, parents specifically who are navigating a serious medical challenge with a child. So those episodes have been very, very powerful. Um, I had a really cool episode early on in the podcast with Captain Sandy Yawn, who is on the Bravo show, Below Deck Mediterranean.
Mm,
And she wrote a really powerful book on leadership and helping to lead from a point of strength,
mm,
and how to bring out the best in folks that way.
mm,
And then another one that sticks out is an interview I did with a guy who wrote a book called The Moment. Um, and he is a professor, as well as a mountaineer, and kind of integrated lessons from both sides of his work and experience, and navigating challenges on the mountain as well as in the classroom, and had many really powerful case studies of how others have done the same. So that was a
mm.
cool interview. So anyway, so many cool interviews and so
Sure.
many interesting people that I've met as I've done the podcast.
That's very cool. That is cool. Okay, so let's bring us to today, right?
Yes.
Um, you've got a new book that is sort of coming out soft out, right?
Yes.
Officially released in October,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And so you can get the book on electronic download right now. So talk us through. So is it do I need to read the first book to understand the second book? Does it kind of stand alone, or how does it? What is the book about? And kind of go
Yeah,
through.
that's a great question. So the new book is called Step Away:
Mm-hmm.
Keys to Resilient Parenting. And it is definitely a standalone. You
Mm-hmm.
can read the second book without having read Bounce, and vice versa. The new book, Step Away, is really focused on how we as parents can build that resilient lifestyle, that resilient mindset from the inside out.
Mm,
In doing that, how can we model these things for our kids? So there's certainly a relationship between the books, but each stands on its own. And so in Step Away, I talk about, the strategies related to managing our stress response as parents, and you know, talk as well about the relaxation response, and go through principles of emotionally intelligent parents, and how we can build those facets into our life as people and as parents. And I illustrate each point through a case study or two.
mm,
Um, and it's like I'm confident that it's a book with some powerful reminders.
mm,
It brings things that I think all of us as parents know on a certain level, but it's packaged and it's right there, and
mm,
it's meant to be very easily digestible and accessible
Yeah.
so that we can, just use it to optimize ourselves across domains, but really as parents. And a really important point to make is there's no one size fits all.
Hmm.
It's really about being the best that we can be as parents within our own unique context, whatever that looks like for us.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Um, so we're working through trying to figure out, this hard thing called parenting, and parenting, whether it's, because a kiddo born with some major medical issue or a kiddo coming through a traumatic situation, that the principles are there. They're the struggles aren't the same, but they're very similar, right? Because if you're stressed about all the medical bills and all the things needed for this kiddo, or you're stressed because this kiddo's got all these traumatic responses and things like that, and so we're whether whichever type of parent we're talking through, um, we need help managing ourselves so that we can turn around and manage our kiddos.
Exactly. So that we can help our kids to, do all the things that we're talking about in Bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And help them do those things effectively, build those skills into their life, kind of becoming resilient from the inside out, such that they're able to contend with the inevitable challenges that they're going to face. And the same for us as parents. How can we mm, optimize ourselves? And it changes across developmental stages of our parenting journey
Mm.
and such. I remember, and the book is written. I write it through the lens of myself as a parent, myself as, in the introduction, kind of a child with that major medical thing,
Mm.
as well as myself as a psychologist. And so, I definitely integrate beginning kind of life for me as a parent of infant twins with my husband on the road like 6 days a week. And
Mm.
kind of before I was really thinking about, oh, I really need to focus in on how I'm going to make myself as strong as possible so that I can give back as much as possible to the
Mhm.
boys, and how that process has kind of ebbed and flowed through developmental phases, very different in infancy than it is now when my boys are 18. So it's yeah, the book kind of integrates that personal lens as well.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And so what are you've got some practical strategies for overwhelmed parents? Where do we start there? How do we begin?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And, might get a little bit repetitive with this managing of the stress response thing, but
That's okay.
that's really where we need to begin.
Yeah.
We need to find that way to manage our stress response. And really, I teach everybody the relaxation response. But then, it's also building self awareness for parents to be able to notice when their stress level is climbing too
Mm.
high,
Mhm.
for them to be optimal in their role as a parent, and to notice that, because oftentimes we're moving through life so fast that sometimes we just don't notice, right? And we just keep
Mhm.
going, and then we end up kind of burned out and not as effective as we'd like to be as parents and otherwise on the other side of that stressor or whatever has happened. Um, so it's managing your stress response, it's noticing when things are getting to be too much. It's taking a step back and creating space. That's
Mm.
where the book is called Step Away, right? Not
Right.
step forward. So we're stepping away, we're creating space for us as parents to take care of ourselves, really,
Yeah.
to focus on optimizing our own sense of well-being so that then we're able to, through modeling, through actual engagement, be there for our kids and help them to become the best version of themselves that they can be.
Mhm. Yeah. So book one is really kind of focused on the kiddo. Book two is really kind of focused on the parent, right? Am I kind of getting
Exactly.
that?
That's spot on.
I
Yes.
love it. Yeah, because I'm telling you, I as a parent of kiddos from foster, almost 13 years, it is hard.
Yeah.
Um, it is hard, and the conversations that I have with so many other foster parents, one of the things that we do here on the pod, we I have a resource, whether it's a book, another podcast, a counseling center, something like that, and then the next week is as a foster and adoptive family, right? Because we I say this all the time. We do better in community, right? And
Yes.
so if I can listen to somebody else's story and their struggles, then that builds that resilience in me to say, okay, I'm not alone. I am not the only one dealing with these struggles, right?
Absolutely. That's so important. It's that human connection, that
Right.
authentic human connection, and that experience, that human experience of struggle that
Hmm.
becomes so powerful.
Yeah, and so if we can connect with others, if we can see what we need to do to help our kiddos, but then really internalize and see how do we do better so that we can better help the kids. And so, I mean, that's just super powerful. I love it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I love that too.
Well, very cool. So let's we've talked about how your kind of your life experience kind of I don't know if it pushed or guided you into this kind of scenario and things like that. So how does if I'm not a parent dealing with a kiddo with struggle, if I'm a teacher, if I'm a doctor, if I'm a school counselor or something, how do I step in and help those folks that are in those environments? What do you talk to those people as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And the principles kind of laid out here, both in Bounce as well as in StepAway, can be integrated um, again across domains. So, you know, it Bounce, I've got a lot of teachers integrating some of these principles in
Mm-hmm.
classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a lot of stories about that, and that's really how the book is designed. Um, and also, Step Away, right? Can be optimizing ourselves as parents. Um, but then as we're optimizing, let's say we're a medical professional or we're a teacher or what have you, as we become optimized as parents, we're becoming optimized sort of across domains, the domains of our lives. So we're going to be able to show up better, stronger for anybody who we're working with,
Mm-hmm.
regardless whether it's in, a medical practice, a school, we're a coach, maybe we're a music teacher, any of these things, right? So the books are designed such that the principles laid out are somewhat universally applicable.
Yeah. Yeah, so you don't have to be a parent struggling with this. You can be someone on the outside kind of looking in and still benefit from being able to see and develop and strengthen and grow those families that are in the midst of it, right? So that's
Absolutely.
yeah, I love it. So would you say that technology, social media has impacted this whole process of growing as an individual and becoming who we need to be and how all that's what would you say the impact of social media is on the families that are trying to work through this?
Yeah. So it can be social media, it can be tough, right? It can,
Mhm.
create environment of comparison and causing folks to think that they're not good enough and seeing these amazing pictures and stories
Yeah.
that looking at through as they scroll through Instagram. But really the reality there is everybody's got challenge, everybody's got a struggle, and we've
Mhm.
got to keep that in mind. But
Yeah.
really important for folks, all families, all of us really, um, not to fall into that mode of comparing social media and thinking that everybody's got it better, and really going back to the basics
Yeah.
of who we are and building within our own unique context. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some beneficial, powerful things that can come out of social media.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that the pitfalls are very much there, and we've got to keep an eye on those.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that through the things of the world we live in today. I mean, I know every generation says, "Oh, those kids today," or whatever. But I would say that the it's easier now to look at somebody from far away and say things or do things, because I don't have to stand in front of them and say, hey, this is you, you're harder or whatever. And so it can be much more difficult to kind of feel that and overcome that, and not do that comparison. That it is, gosh, I mean, I struggle with it a lot of times. But I'm like, man, Jimmy and Susie they're doing great things, and here I am over here not, whatever, and so, yeah.
It's a real part of the human experience, right? And so really important to remind ourselves of that, and
Mhm.
and take that step back from social media, at points. And
Yeah.
again, it comes down to the awareness of, are we getting too bogged down in it, and are our kids getting too bogged down in it? And that's such a hard thing too, because um, helping our kids to regulate around social media from the inside out
Mhm.
is really the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But developmentally, they're not always going to be in the place where they're going to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
there's some oversight involved, that's necessary. But there's always got to be a degree as well of giving our kids the space to start to learn to self-regulate,
Yeah.
because, you know, at some point they're going to be 18, they're going to be, in college or what have you, and they're going to need to regulate in
Yeah.
order to be at their best, right? Because if
Right.
they're always on their phones, they're not going to be at their best. And so, but there are no easy answers there. It's a complex issue.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I think it's more, maybe it's more, um we're way more aware, I think, a lot of us today, on where we are emotionally and developmentally and things like that, than we were 20, 30 years ago. I think mental health has become, it's not totally normalized, but it's a lot more normalized now than it was 20 years ago. And being open and honest and saying, man, I'm struggling with this and I need help. Here's a book, here's a podcast, here's a counselor that I can go to, and I can help grow and build that resilience in myself so that I can turn around and help the kiddos in my care do that as well. I think it's just so important for us today, to work through those things.
Absolutely. So, so important. I couldn't agree more. And it's true. I mean, yes, mental health is much less stigmatized than it was 20 years ago. Um, and I think it's people are having, they're hearing the messages that it's okay to ask for
Hmm.
help.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's vital to ask for help. And it's really a sign of strength to ask for help, as opposed to anything else.
Right.
So vital to ask for help when you're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, Dr. Lund, I'm so thankful that you came on today and shared with us, guys. The book is called, one more time, the uh, I'm sorry, the new book is called Step Away, right?
Yes,
Right.
StepAway, the keys to resilient parenting.
Excellent. Okay, so StepAway, and you can find that Amazon.
Links are on my website as well.
Okay.
So either of those work very well.
Okay. All right. So, and like I said, I'll link those down in the show notes below. And so, if you're interested in growing yourself, growing your ability to parent kiddos from difficult situations, things like that, definitely check it out, and maybe even go backwards and get the first book with the 7 Pillars Bounce, because that sounds like a super great strategy as well, helping the kiddos with their struggles and their emotions, and then helping us ourselves. And so Dr. Lund, I'm super grateful that you reached out and that you come on the podcast to share, because I think your strategy could be super beneficial to families that are out there that are having a hard time.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me, because this has been a great conversation. So thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. And so if you're out there and you're listening, check out Dr. Lund. Your website is
www.katelundspeaks.com.
katelundspeaks.com. And again, I'll link that down in the show notes. And so check her out. You'll come and do presentations and things like that as well for groups and stuff like that.
Yep, absolutely. I do that, and I do keynote talks, and I'm also available for short-term consultation, that sort of thing.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. So so guys, check it out. See if there's some things that connect with you. That there are a whole bunch of different strategies out there, and finding the one that connects with you. You know, a friend of mine said, "What's the best diet?" And it's the one you're going to follow, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're all different. We all have different ways that we internalize and develop, and so whichever one fits us the best, right?
Exactly.
So if if you're struggling out there and you need some help, then check it out. Check out her website. Check out her books. Listen to the podcast. I think it could be really beneficial to get another perspective on how to grow and help our families. So Dr. Kate, thank you so much for coming on today. Guys, as I said earlier, we provide placement packages to families when kiddos come into foster care, and that comes through the placement package, which is every kiddo gets a suitcase, a bottle, teddy bear, book, toy, and blanket, and then whatever else the family needs. And so each placement package costs us about $430. And so they get those 6 things and then whatever else the family needs. So it could be diapers and clothes, car seats, blankets, whatever they need. And then we deliver it, and we deliver it to the 26 counties of the Panhandle. So that is about the size of West Virginia. So that's a huge area that we're covering. And there's about 600 kids that come in each year. And we've got a long ways to go to get to where every kiddo gets a placement package. And the way that we do that is through folks that become a placement package partner. $100 a month buys us all the clothes we need for one placement package. $50 buys us a case of diapers each month. $10 a month buys us an outfit each month. We'll have a link down there in the show notes where you can go and set that up. And so thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Dr. Kate, for coming on and sharing your insights into how we can better help the kiddos and families in our care.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great week, and we will catch you next time.